Hello and welcome to Grumpy Old Crone with me, a slightly sleep-deprived Annie, who actually is going to talk and whinge about things that don't matter very much in the witchcraft and pagan community for the next half an hour. First of all, if I'm looking a little bit tired around the edges or a bit sparky is what I used to call it when my kids got like this, is because I've had insomnia for 2 nights. I've had like 3 hours sleep over the past 2 nights. So I'm not very with it, but I want to get this filmed anyway because, yeah, why not? Anyway, so the first thing I'm going to discuss is actually witchy aesthetic. So I made a discovery this week and I am pretty excited by this discovery and I wanted to share it with you all, despite the fact that probably everybody apart from me knows this, but you know, hey ho. I'm not good, as I've told you before, with the whole makeup thing. I think you've probably figured this out by now. I watch some amazing YouTube creators with people who tell like amazing true crime stories putting on makeup, and I'm always in awe of how professional they look whilst they're doing it. You know, their faces look amazing, their makeup looks amazing, they're presented to camera, they're telling these amazing stories. Man, I can't do that. So very impressive. You know, that's not me, because personally I'm not convinced that my makeup skills actually have moved on much from 1985. As I get older I realise there are certain things that make me look a little bit better or worse. Grey eyebrows and pale skin makes for, you know, kind of like a deeply unhealthy look if I don't do anything about it. You know, I am a pallid Victorian child coughing on the chaise longue if I'm not careful. So I always try and colour my eyebrows to make myself look slightly less like a zombie and slightly more like a functional human, although after 2 nights of no sleep that ain't working much. But I quite enjoyed that brief few years in the 2000s, if you remember it, when having lipstick the same colour as your natural lips was actually all the trend. I'm kind of trying to go for it, but you can't buy it exactly like you could back then. So, you know, I invariably didn't even bother putting lipstick on then, and I still look like I had. You see, so that's a fashion trend I can get behind, one that makes it look like I was trying when I wasn't. Anyway, however, my biggest problem at the moment, as I think I've probably mentioned back in the dawn of time, is eyeliner. I mean, for a start, winged eyeliner was not intended to be worn by older women with saggy eyelids. I've commented before that winged eyeliner on the over 50s tends to look a bit more like droopy pigeon than a majestic eagle taking flight. And half the time, even if you manage to make a halfway decent job of it, it's all hidden in like the wrinkly folds of your baggy eye skin anyway. And then you have it on for a few hours, wash it off, and then have to start the same process again the next day. And I've also found that I actually have a little bit of a sensitivity to the fumes of whatever the pigment is suspended in, so it makes my eyes a bit scratchy and pink for a couple of hours when I put it on, and then my eyes get pink and scratchy when I take it off again, leading inevitably to about 4 hours in the middle of the day when I do not look like the cartoon character Droopy. Yeah, but however, when I was in town with a grumpy young daughter, which is a bit of a misnomer, she's actually pretty happy most of the time, we happened to go and look at some makeup for her to use during a cosplay that she was planning. And I spotted, oh my God, I spotted semi-permanent eyeliner. Ooh. I'd previously thought that semi-permanent eyeliner was like a tattoo procedure, and whilst I love my tattoos, obviously, I have seen some terrible permanent makeup and I'm never going to go near that as a technique. But this stuff was normal liquid eyeliner that just kind of like stays on. So I bought it and I tried it, and you know what? It does exactly what it says on the box. I'm not a big kind of like eye rubber, so it's not wearing off that way, and it does come off with makeup remover when I want it to, but it's lasted for 3 or 4 days at a time, and my eyes are so much happier with me. No itchy scratchy ouchies throughout the day and night, and I mostly look human. I can wash my face normally. I mean, fair dinkums here, I don't have a skincare regime. What I have is a flannel and some soap, you know, but I can do that. soap, flannel, water, and it stays in place. I'm very impressed with it, actually. I mean, honestly, this is kind of a game changer for me. I am looking human much more often now. Yeah. So, I mean, the downside, obviously, is that I'm not able to channel Bog Witch quite so easily these days. But, 20 minutes with some cotton wool and makeup remover, and I'm back to my repulsive, unearthly, cackling self once more, ready to abduct fairy tale characters and give them a light saute in a medium hot oven. Yeah. And while I'm on the subject of makeup, a couple of people have asked me what lipstick I use in various videos, and the simple answer is I don't know. I don't usually wear actual lipstick, though, as it wears off when I kind of like snuzzle the cats or I brush my teeth, and I never remember to put it back on again anyway. So I tend to wear like metallic lip stain. I probably got it from Boots, the chemist, probably, and that's as much as I can remember. I'm so sorry. I like the sparkly ones. Does that help? I don't know. If it was reduced in a sale in the last 12 months, it was probably that one. So yeah, sorry about that if it's not the most helpful thing I could have said, but it's the truth. Anyway, we're going to move on now to meat and 2 potatoes for today. So today, in Meat and 2 Potatoes, we're going to look at something that started out making me slightly annoyed, but the more I think about it, the worse it actually seems to get. And I suspect I may come back to this a few times in the future. Now, witches and magical practitioners have been around for as long as humanity has been able to record their existence. And, probably before that, but we can't prove it. The most commonly cited instance of this is the cave painting of the sorcerer in the Cave of the Three Brothers in Ariège, France. Here's a picture if you don't know the one. This dates, they reckon, from approximately 13,000 Common Era, and was claimed by Henri Brouillet and subsequently Margaret Murray, as a painting of a horned deity. But much more recent academic opinion sees it more likely to be some kind of depiction of like a shaman or somebody performing a ritual associated with hunting, probably. And as this is the opinion of Ron Hutton, one of the finest and most important academics working in the field at the moment, I tend to go with his opinion. Truth of the matter is that, we can't really know for sure what this painting is depicting. Could be a god, could be a shaman. Could be a shaman channeling a god. The simple fact is that we don't really know. But the one thing that everyone agrees on is that it has magical and ritualistic overtones, invoking both human and animal characteristics. Okay? And so the continued of existence of witches from that point seems pretty difficult to refute. There has, of course, been an ebb and flow of social acceptance for magical workers within the communities. But they've always been there. They're noted in the Bible and in other early holy books. They're mentioned in records of the Greek and the Roman empires. They're mentioned in the Dark Ages, I apologise. Medieval Europe was what I was trying to say. Remember, Insomniac. Medieval Europe, across the whole Asian continent, and, well, up until now, really, isn't it? I mean, I'm no expert on Indigenous Australian spirit work, but a quick skim on Google seems to show that it flourished there as well, We're kind of there. And the thing that all of these spirit workers and magical practitioners seem to have in common is their apartness and training in the path that they took. So, spiritual workers in whatever tradition have always undertaken a long and challenging path in their training, developing abilities, inheriting knowledge from their superiors, and growing into the role of magical and spiritual worker and advisor to whatever community they're part of. These people have always been set slightly apart, often lived on the edges of communities they serve, or cultivating their sense of otherness around their dwellings and places of work. Visiting a witch or a shaman or a priest of any kind, I think, should feel a little bit like you're stepping into a world that's not entirely familiar. You're asking someone to intercede with something that's unknown on your behalf. So it should be a little bit concerning or exciting or a cause for deep thought, because if there isn't any deep feeling associated with it, why are you doing it? Really? Yeah. You believe that the priest has holy authority to marry you or bury your loved ones because of his long training at the seminary in order to do that, right? You believe that the shaman has knowledge to help you spiritually journey with mind-altering substances or rhythms because they've undertaken the training to do just that. I mean, to hell with it. Even in everyday, not at all spiritual life, we expect people to take periods of study and examination before they're allowed to, clean plaque from our teeth or invest our money, So if we expect people to have qualifications and certifications to be able to, sell us double glazing or cut our hair, why are we as a society so quick to accept people who proclaim themselves to be spiritual gurus? I hate that word. I mean, I'm not talking about the Jim Jones or David Koresh's of this world. That's well beyond the stretch of this channel for now. But I'm certainly I'm certainly not talking about that weird Australian bloke who genuinely believes he is the reincarnation of Jesus. Apparently his name is Alan. Alan! No. I'm talking about that very particular sort of mid-30s yummy mummy. You know the kind I mean. Perfectly highlighted hair. A house that is painted entirely in impeccably white. A wardrobe from Joules and H&M. But there's nothing wrong really with a good charity shop haul and some homemade stuff. Right? Anyway, I digress. Sorry. So, but these people, white houses, perfectly highlighted hair, and always, suspiciously, I find, a professional husband who has a good job in the city and makes enough money so that his wife can play at being a spiritual guru. And you know the type. I'm positive you know the type. They read an Eckhart Tolle book when Oprah showcased it, and then they took up yoga. And then they decided that the rest of their lives would be best spent taking money from people that they consider to be beneath them so that they can tell them how to live their lives, and promise them that if they pay enough cash, they too can have an entirely white house and perfect highlights and no stress. They generally, I have found, leave out that bit about needing to have the husband with the 6-figure salary though. Odd that. These women always promise the earth and always seem to target other women who are older, fatter, poorer, more stressed than they are, and sell them the lie that they too can have this aspirational fucking lifestyle if they just sign up to a 3-month course. It's always a course, 3-month course about manifesting, clean eating and yoga. It's a lie. Okay, it's a lie. And it makes me so angry. Just drink oat milk and you'll look like Nicole Kidman before the plastic surgery. Not rich enough yet? Well, you aren't manifesting properly. It's your own fault. Try harder and you'll be rich. Are your children chaotic gremlins from the demon realm who destroy everything you love and have taken up smoking crack? Why don't you try some gentle parenting and aromatherapy? Don't shout at them. That is perpetuating your own parental trauma. Oh, did you not know that you have parental trauma? Everyone has parental trauma. Sign up to this additional hypnotherapy life coaching course, and for a one-time only payment of £5,000, I can help you recover and deal with the traumatic memories of that time your mum made you wear a home-knitted cardigan to school and everybody laughed at you. If you're really lucky, your personal life guru will claim to be reincarnated from somebody really cool, which is another issue I have. Why is nobody ever reincarnated from, Agnes Twitsworth, a cleaner from Biggleswade? Why is it always Cleopatra or Elizabeth I? Right? And as a digression, and would this even be me if I didn't digress? I once did a reincarnation hypnotherapy thing. Yeah, somebody I knew said that they knew how to do it, so did I want a session? Well, there was a cup of tea and a biscuit in it for me, and I was super curious. So, why the hell not? So this was when I've got to say, I was in the depths of a dying marriage and I was very unhappily in the broom closet. She did a lot of guided meditation stuff. You know, the sort of thing, you know, you walk through a set of steps, through a garden gate, lovely garden, more steps, more gates, more gardens, clouds, clocks, more steps. And eventually she declared to me that I was at that point now in my past life and deeply under hypnosis. Spoiler alert, I really wasn't. I really wasn't. I was hot and I was sticky and I put on a bra that was too tight and I really wanted that biscuit. But she declared that I was 100% in my last life, and what could I see? Now, as I've mentioned before, I'm a role player, okay? Tabletop role players, Dungeons and Dragons, it's my jam. And I have got a pretty good visual imagination. And I was deeply unhappily married and deeply, deeply unhappily in the church. So what did my subconscious pull out? Well, apparently, you're a witch, Annie. I imagine myself in a witch's hut in Scotland wearing a nice blue dress with lots of chickens. I was single. And then, apparently, shock horror, I was pressed to death for being a witch. This explains everything. My acquaintance woke me up. More steps, more gardens, more steps, more gardens, clocks. Honestly, it was tedious. And I finally got the biscuit. The tea was decaf. Such disappointment. Such deep, deep disappointment. And so my imagination told me that I was everything I wanted to be. A single witch in a hut in a nice romantic place. And it gave me a suitably dramatic ending too. Great story, huh? Yeah. Well, slight problem. I did some research. The style of dress I was wearing? Medieval. The period I used to reenact, and I have made countless dresses of exactly that style before. And the witch hunts in Scotland didn't start until much later than the style of dress I was wearing. And here's the clincher. That traumatic death by being pressed under rocks, it never happened in Scotland. However, my bra was definitely too tight and I did feel a bit compressed by that, so I reckon my brain caught on with it and conflated that into being pressed to death. So, am I a reincarnated 13th century witch from Scotland? No, I am not. I am an imaginative person who was in a bad situation, wishing for something more romantic than the sad life I was living at the time. And I conjured one up because somebody gave me tacit permission to do that. I can look back at that and say it was a pile of bull poo, but at the end of the day, I didn't pay anyone to do that. But I know for a fact that the acquaintance, who I will point out was slim, moneyed and had grey hair, charged other people to do this exact same thing for them. And if they were more desperate than I or less credulous, would they have believed whatever their brains cooked up for them? Yeah, I kind of reckon they might have done, actually. Now, don't get me wrong here, because for what it's actually worth, I do actually believe in reincarnation, and that's part of why I agreed to that exercise. I've been places for the first time that seem really oddly familiar. I've read very credible stories about young children with very detailed memories that lock them into a previous life. But my experience with regression? Bullcrap, really. I mean, I'd love to do it and actually experience something that could be verified, or at least not entirely chalked up to my own imagination. Yeah, maybe another day. But anyway, sorry, digression. Although it is somewhat linked, these people that exist among us, they seem to somehow feel that owning more expensive clothes and having a beautiful house makes them better people and therefore entitled to promise to elevate others to this rarefied state of existence if we pay them money. They will refer to themselves as life coaches or course leaders or some other phrase that makes them seem somehow better. They will sell you the promise that if you just work hard enough or take enough courses, then you'll somehow be a better, thinner, richer and happier person than you are right now. And because they look better than you do and have more money, then some people will believe that. Now, I'm going to say there's an easy tip here. If someone has statues of the Buddha everywhere in their home decor, but aren't actually, Buddhist, then maybe it's time to start asking some questions. Just slapping some abstract art prints and a Buddha up in your all-white living room whilst wearing an all-white linen outfit that costs more than most people earn in a month and walking barefoot to show off your impeccable pedicure, well, it's a flex for sure, but I'm not sure that you realise what it's saying about you. If you've decided that your midlife career change is to be a spiritual life coach, then I've got a message for you. Stop trying so hard. Stop believing that you know everything. Maybe you manifested your wealth and house, maybe. Or maybe your husband bought them. And if you get divorced, you will manifest a smaller flat, 90s wallpaper and a part-time job in Tesco. Who knows? Having more stuff, less cellulite and nicer hair does not make you a more spiritually awakened person or give you the right to take money from other people who aren't doing so well in return for making them feel guilty about their lives. I suspect Gwyneth Sodding Paltrow has a lot to answer for in some of these circles, frankly. It's odd how a midlife career change to being a spiritual life coach for people of a certain social class is attainable, but for others it's almost laughably ridiculous. If you're working 50-hour weeks in a tedious office job and then going home to clean your house, feed your family, look after your aged parents and fend off people asking you to volunteer at fucking jumble sales, then I can guarantee a career change to being a tantric theosopher is going to be slightly less achievable. So I ask you, if someone touts themselves as a spiritual life coach who's going to help you to sort out your etheric being, ask yourselves the following questions. Is their house white? Is their hair perfect? Are there statues of Buddha everywhere? Do they claim some kind of made-up spiritual background? Do you suspect that at any time in the last 15 years, a live, laugh, love sign has hung somewhere in their home? If so, my lovely cronies, I recommend not parting with a penny of your hard-earned money and getting the hell out of Dodge. Let the yummy mummies rediscover Tupperware, for heaven's sake. At least the Tupperware was useful, unlike their AI-generated courses. I am here to tell you that I have been walking this path for decades, and I am not a spiritually enlightened person. I do what I do, and I'll tell you what I know, or what I think to be true. I'm grateful to those who sit through the adverts and those who join me over on Patreon for more of the same nonsense that I do here. I can categorically say that I'm not going to retire to somewhere with palm trees and white sandy beaches on the money from that, but I am super grateful that I didn't have to worry when the gas and electric bill came in last month with a figure that made me wince and squint like this. My house isn't white and doesn't have a single Buddha anywhere in it. Mainly because I'm not a Buddhist. I don't have highlights, I'm growing my grey out, and I have put back every single pound I lost last summer. Damn it. I blame salt and vinegar Pringles personally. I do what I do because I love it. Not because I want to package it up and sell it to you as a way of living the same life I do. Don't do that. It'd be really weird. I live in an overly decorated house, have piles of books and tarot cards everywhere. My black cat leaves fur on everything white that I own, and my cream cat leaves cream fur on everything black that I own. And my chickens eat every plant I don't surround with chicken wire in my garden. I work too many hours, and I love the fact that at 50 I got to figure out what happily ever after looked like for me. But, you know, I'm no expert. I figured out what worked for me, and I encourage you to try and figure out what works for you. It'll be different to everyone else. I can promise you that. And it might take you a year, and it might take you 50. There are no guarantees. But enjoy exploring what works, and don't be embarrassed about what doesn't. But don't trust anyone who tells you that they have it all worked out and will sell you the secret. They are lying like a cheap knockoff watch. Right. That being said, we're now going to move on to the positive bits. Here comes the positive bits. I had a lovely, quiet birthday, which is exactly what I needed. I did some stuff for the channel, had a bit of a read, had some lovely gifts from my nearest and dearest, and it was all, I've got to say, very pleasant indeed. Part of my super secret plan, which I mentioned a little while back and is still ongoing, has involved labels. Teeny tiny little labels. It was during the execution of this part of my cunning plan that Hewlett-Packard and I fell out with each other. No matter what I did with my printer, I could not get them to centre on the labels I bought, leading to some very angry noises. If you want to know the noises I made, I recommend going to the Tiny Angry Witch mood video, and then you will have very accurate representation of what I sounded like as my third sheet of labels printed wrongly yet again, and I only had 5 sheets of the bloody things in total. I finally embraced the internet as a problem-solving device and ordered some ready printed labels, so I outsourced my frustration and it has made my life so much simpler and happier. Top tier Patreon members who are to be involved in the tarot giveaway will have the fruits of my labours dropping through their letterboxes very, very soon. I'm super sorry for the delay. When you open the parcels, I hope you will understand why it took me a little longer than I had planned at first. I'm trying very hard to embrace the joy of delegation these days, although I've got to say I kind of suck at it. There's a danger to building your own business, I found, and realising that you've built it so that the only person who can actually operate it is, well, you. I'm trying to do better these days, and a couple of people have been very kind and taken over some stressful jobs for me. So that makes me really happy. Thank you to those people, you know who you are. The streak of good weather remains solid here in the middle of England, and although I'm having to water the garden a bit, everything is looking pretty good. Mr. Grumpy Old Crone, Grumpy Young Daughter and myself were off on a little outing last weekend to go and sing some silly songs with friends in a lovely set of gardens near us. The weather was gorgeous. There was tea, there were cakes, so we were very well supplied. And next weekend, Mr. Grumpy Old Crone and I are off to a steam railway to hopefully sell some leather armour. Not to the drivers or anything, that would be a bit weird, but it's a steampunk event, and Mr. Grumpy Old Crone's unstoppable hobby is making leather armour. So a couple of times a year we venture out to attempt to sell it to unsuspecting steampunks, therefore allowing us space and funds for him to make some more. It's a very real obsession, I tell you. He's very good at it as well, and makes pagan ritual armour too. So we're looking at trading a few pagan markets in the near future too. Wish us luck. Really ought to show you his pagan raven pauldron. That's a bit of shoulder armour to me or you. It's really amazing. I love it. Anyway, I'll show you that another time. In terms of things that make me happy in the world, I can honestly say that the Catholic Church doesn't rate very highly, generally. Well, at all, actually. But I had a lot of time for the late Pope. I had a lot of time for the late Pope, who managed the frankly astonishing feat of managing to actually embody the central Christian message of love and tolerance, I think. I was slightly concerned that him shuffling off the mortal coil meant that the world was going to get stuck with another right-wing arsehole. And whilst I don't think that the new bloke is going to be anywhere near as good as the last one, I would be saying if I didn't get a cheap thrill from seeing right-wing news sources getting really, really angry and calling him the woke Pope, because that has led, I've got to say, unstoppably to me singing the woke Pope song, which goes like this, and I hope you'll recognise it. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, woke Pope. So every time you hear the word woke Pope, you are now duty bound to sing that. I'm human. I'll take a laugh wherever I can get one, frankly. So this next weekend, I hope, is going to feature sun, friends, cake, song, laying in bed a bit in a hotel, lots of laughter. I'll take that as a positive weekend. Yeah. Hopefully I'll remember to take some pictures of our shenanigans to share on my socials. So whatever you do, have a lovely time this following week. There will be a review video coming up in a day or two, which is the last of my content about the Goblin dice, which I still bloody love. And after that I will go quiet on the subject of Goblin dice, apart from any rolls and readings I might do with them in much the same way that I do with tarot. So yeah, that's that. Have a lovely time. I'm going to go get a drink of water, because the last drink of water I had, my cat Jinky managed to help himself to. So last I found, he got his head stuck in my pint glass and I had no water. So I'm going to go and sort that out and then get on with editing this. Bye!